Question 10a says, in a town, Chief X resides 60 meters away on a bearing of 57 degrees from Palace P, while Chief Y resides on a bearing of 150 degrees from the same Palace P. The residence of X and Y are 180 meters apart. Illustrate the information in the diagram. That's for question A. We have to illustrate this in the diagram, and like we know, this is a bearing question, and for us to solve the question we need to take our time and understand it. We can do a rough work before we do the main work. Let's now illustrate the diagram. We'll start with, in a town, Chief X resides 60 meters away on a bearing of 57 degrees from the Palace P. So the bearing from the Palace P is 57 degrees. We have our 4 cardinal points, and we know how our bearing operates. This is the palace. You can name it P. So it says, in a town, Chief X resides 60 meters away on a bearing of 57 degrees. We know we take our readings from the north, and from the north to the east is 90 degrees. So 57 is somewhere in the middle between this point, taking it from the north. We go 57 degrees. We can indicate it here, 57 degrees. 60 meters away we have Chief X's house. It then says, while Chief Y resides on a bearing of 150 from the same Palace P. So the location of Chief Y's house is 150 degrees. And you know, like we said, you take your reading, when it's 3-figure bearing, you take your reading from the north. And we travel 90, and 150 is greater than 90, then you travel a little bit further. We know this one is 180, so 150 doesn't get to 180, so it's somewhere around here. So we'll draw a line down. So we'll travel 150 to this point. And we know this is like a straight line. You travel to a straight line, the rest is 30 degrees to make it 180. So this small angle is 30 degrees. The question then continues and says, the residence of X and Y are 180 meters apart. So since we know they are 180 apart, there's no bearing to show the location of one to the other. So the safest thing to do, since we're still doing our rough work, is to join a line, straight line. Make sure it's directly south. That's due south of this. It's still a sketch work anyway. Which is, they are 180 meters apart. Chief X's house is here and Y is here. We have our palace here. Since we're not sure that Y is directly south of X, we can't find his angle. Normally this is 57, and if it were directly south, this would be 57 also, because we would actually say his alternate angle, because this is parallel to this line and it forms like a Z. So whatever this angle is, this angle is also, if you're very good, you're bearing, you will know if this is 57, this is also 57. But since we're not sure it's directly south, we are not sure what this angle is, but we can figure out all these other angles. We can then pick out all the angles we have, or we can derive from this certain angles. There are angles we're not sure of. Like for this now, we can figure this is now the triangle. We have triangle PXY. We can get some of the angles, and that will help us in solving. And since we know that this is not a right angle triangle, we can then know that solving anything using Pythagoras theorem will not work. And the best that will work is either the sine rule or the cosine rule. And some don't really know which of the rules to apply, but if you don't, best start with sine rule. If sine rule doesn't work, cosine rule will work. So let's find out all our angles. We know the bearing of X is 57 degrees, and we know we have to travel 57 here, and we know the total distance here is 90. From here to here is 90. So if this is 57, the remaining angle will be 90 minus 57 degrees. You can erase the E and stretch this a bit. So the left angle, we've traveled 57 out of 90. The left will be 90 minus 57, which is 33 degrees. And for the second one, remember the house of Chief Y is 150 degrees away from the palace, so we traveled 150 here. We discovered the rest was 30 degrees, and we can actually get this other angle here with this 150. There are actually two ways to get it. You see that will take this 30 here. Knowing that this angle is 90 and this is 30, the rest will be 90 minus 30. 90 minus 30 degrees will give you 60 degrees. So this left angle is 60 degrees. And we can also use the 150 to calculate it. So traveling 150, you've traveled 90. Then the rest will be 150 degrees minus 90 degrees. It will also give you 60. That means either way, this angle is 60. We now have our triangle and we know this is 33 and this is 60. We can therefore find this total angle. With the fact that we know that this is 33 and this is 60, and this is actually a triangle, let's show it so you can understand. Let's say this is a triangle. We have our plus P here, we have our X here, we have our Y here, and we have this angle here. Part of this is 33, the other part is 60. So we can add the two of them together to get the total angle. 33 plus 60 degrees will give us 93 degrees. Therefore, this big angle is 93 degrees. So we've actually illustrated this in a diagram, and with our diagram we can start solving. We've certainly gotten that this big angle is 93 degrees, but since we're not sure y is directly south of x, we can't actually say this is 57. But we've gotten this angle to be 93. We have this side, we have 60 meters on this side, we have 180 on this side. We can use that to find these two angles. If we discover that this angle is 57 after solving, that means y is directly south of x or due south of x. And if we get our angle to be smaller than 57 degrees, that means the line comes right here to join. And if the angle here is bigger than 57 degrees, that means the line goes outside, because from here to here is 57. You've traveled 57 here. Then if it's over 57, like 60, that means the line that we drew here should have been drawn right here. So this illustration doesn't actually represent the actual relationship between location x and y, but we're sure of the location of both of them in respect or relative to plus p. So we'll name this y, we'll name this p, and we'll name this x. And with this we can solve. For the sake of explanation, we can actually redraw this so we can easily understand. This is how our diagram should look like after illustrating, since, like I said earlier, we're not sure of this angle, since y is not directly due south of x, but we're sure this is 93 degrees based on the information given to us. Now we'll start with question 10b. Find and correct to three significant figures the bearing of x from y. That means if you are looking for the bearing of x from y, that's like saying looking for the location or locate x from y, except when it's compass bearing. If it's three-figure bearing, we'll take our reading from the north and travel from the north until we hit the line of x. So we have to go right round and hit the line of x, not the line of p. If you are looking for the bearing of our palace, that's palace p from y, Chief Y's house, we'll travel round and hit this line. We are going to travel round and hit the x line. And for us to get the bearing, we need to find this angle. This angle will actually help us in getting the bearing of x from y, or we can simply say the location of x from y. We have to travel right round to the point that we hit this line. So let's start that. Like I said earlier, the best to use to start solving the question is to use sine rule. It's not a right angle triangle. You can't use any of the Pythagoras theorem. So the best thing to start with is the sine rule, and if the sine rule doesn't work, then you try cosine rule if you're not very sure of which rule to apply per time. Now looking at this, we have our plus p here. Opposite the angle of plus p is this line, and if this is big P, this is going to be small p. If this were a, the big A, this is going to be small a. And also, since we are looking for this angle y, for us to find the answer to a question, we will know that if this is big Y, the line opposite the angle represents the small y. And like said in sine rule, we have sine rule states that small a over sine A equals b over sine B, and we can extend it to c over sine C. So at any point we're solving a question, we can take 2 We can take any two. We can take this two, or we can take A over sine A equals C over sine C. Now we can replace this A with the value of our P, Y, and X. Since we have our big P here that represents the angle and the small p as the side, the distance, we can say P over sine P equals, we're looking for this angle, this Y over sine big Y, the angle of Y. So we have Y over sine Y. We know our P, which is small p, is 180 meters. So we write 180 over. We know our angle P, which is this opposite, the angle opposite the line P, is 93 degrees. So we write sine 93 degrees equals to our Y, small y, is 60 meters, right? 60 over sine. We don't know the angle of Y that we're looking for, is Y. So we can find our angle Y. Cross multiply like this. We have 180 sine Y equals 60 sine 93 degrees. 180 times sine Y equals 60 times sine 93 is 0.9986. Our sine Y is equal to, divide both sides by 180 to get rid of the 180. Our sine Y will be 60 times 0.9986 over 180. Sine Y is equals to 60 times 0.9986 will give you 59.916 over 180. 59.916 divided by 180 will give you 0.3329. Sine Y is 0.3329. Y is equal to arc sine 0.3329. Using your calculator, pressing the shift button or the second function, sine, then you type this digit 0.3329, we'll discover that our angle is 19.4 degrees to 3 significant figures. We have figured out that our angle Y is 19.4 degrees. Unlike some of angles in the triangle, we have two angles already and we're looking for the third angle. We can use some of angles in the triangle. That means total angle including angle X would equal to 180. So we have X plus 93 plus 19.4 equals 180. Sum of angles in a triangle. We have X plus 93 plus 19.4 will give you 112.4 equals 180. X is equal to, you take out the 112.4, 180 minus, because the 112.4 has a plus, you take it out, it becomes minus 112.4. X is equal to 180 minus 112.4 will give you 67.6 degrees. So we'll have our angle X to be 67.6 degrees. So we'll have it as 67.6 degrees. Taking a look at our diagram again, I remember saying that if this is 57 and Y is directly south of X, that's due south, then this should be 57. And if this angle is bigger than 57, that means this line should be drawn outside. And this part of this angle is 57. Then the rest falls outside 57. I hope you understand. And the rest of this angle can be found by doing 67.6 minus 57. Let's say we have 67.6 minus 57 will give us 10.6 degrees. So for this, has discovered that this angle is 67.6 degrees, and this angle, if it were directly due south, will be 57 degrees. That means our diagram is not perfect, but that doesn't mean we're wrong. It means we have to redraw, and That means after 57 degrees to the side, we have to go 10.6 degree more to complete the 67.6 degrees angle. Since we now know that y is not directly due south of x, we can now draw our diagram and get a better diagram. We have our four cardinal points here. We have our north, our west, our south. Then we have our Pallas P here. Pallas P, we draw 60 meters we have our north, west, east. We have the house of Chief X here, and since we know this is 57 degrees and we know the angle here is beyond 57, that means it goes 10.6 degrees out. We'll have to draw it this way. So we have 57 degrees here, and here we have 10.6 degrees. We join this, then we can now join at this point. We have our Pallas P here, we have Chief X house here as X, we have Chief Y's house here down here, and we know the distance between Chief X's house and Y's is 180 meters. And we have this angle to be 19.4 degrees, and we're actually looking for the bearing of X from Y. The bearing of X from Y means this is a north. Since it's a three-figure bearing, you have to travel from the north right round and hit a line that connects X and Y. And there are two ways to find it. Since we know this is 10.6, this angle is 10.6, and this is like parallel to this. So we actually also know if this is 10.6, this is also 10.6. This angle is also 10.6, which is alternate angle. We can then use this 10.6 to calculate the angle we travel right round to hit this line, because the total angle we're supposed to travel to make a full turn is 360. So if you are traveling all the way and you're left with 10.6 degrees to complete 360, so we can just say 360 degrees minus 10.6 degrees will give us 349.4 degrees. And to three significant figure, that means we stop 349 without the 0.4, so we have that 349 degrees as our final answer to three significant figure. We can also find it by traveling all the way around to hit this line. As done earlier, we know that this inner angle is 60 degrees because we had to travel a total of 150 to get from Pallas P to the house of Chief Y, and we have to travel 90, then the remaining of the 150 is 60. This means this is also 60, and if this is 60, alternate angle, this is also 60 degrees. And knowing that this is 60 degrees and we're looking for the bearing of X from Y, so we can also find it by traveling all the way around, including all these angles down here. So it can be, you've traveled 90, you've traveled another 90, you've traveled another 90. 90 plus 90 is 180. 180 plus another 90 you traveled here is 270. We have 270 plus 60 plus 19.4. So we have 90 plus 90 plus 90 plus 60 plus 19.4 would all add up to 349.4 degrees, which is approximately, to three significant figures, 349 degrees. 3SF, same as the first answer. Either way, you still get your answer. Question 10 BII says, find and correct to three significant figures the distance between P and Y at this distance from here to here. You know this angle, as done earlier, is 67.6 degrees. We can also still use sine rule to get this. Since we know this our total angle is 93 degrees, we can use P and this angle to find this side. So sine rule still applies. So using sine rule, which says A over sine A equals B over sine B and c over sine c. Since we are looking for the small x, we use as this, and knowing that this is our p, we use p plus p over sine p equals x over sine x. We know our p is 180 meters, and we know our angle p is 93 degrees, so we have sine 93 degrees equals, then we know our x, the big X or the angle x, is 67.6 degrees, and we're looking for this x, so we have x, which is unknown, over sine 67.6 degrees. We'll cross multiply and we'll solve for x. We have it as x times sine 93 degrees. We cross and multiply equals 180 times sine 67.6 degrees. X times sine 93 degrees as 0.9986 equals 180, then times sine 67.6 is 0.9245. X times 0.9986 equals 180 times 0.9245 will give you 166.41. We divide both sides by 0.9986 to get rid of this and make x stand alone. We have x is equal to 166.41 divided by 0.9986 will give us 166.64 meters. And to three significant figure, we have it as 167 meters as our answer to three significant figures.